Italian sword fighting that is especially well described in the best Italian manual for police. And this concept is called proceeding. So normally when you fence with an opponent, you don't have to have a match. Let's play at front-footed fencing. So basically, what you do most of the time is that you're playing there's this moment where you get just like a little closer, and that's the moment where someone may go, and then normally people like back out a little bit, or like they're trying to like reconnoiter the situation. This is called, though I don't think it's an especially good name, maybe we need to change it, firm-footed fencing. You could also think of this as like playful fencing or like fencing, right? But there actually is another alternative in terms of the way that you treat measure during the bout. And actually, can we rotate to the same? Yeah. So the other option is a thing called proceeding. So what's going to happen with proceeding is that I'm going to be looking at Diego like he's just some meat that I'm going to slay in a moment, right? And I'm going to obtain an initial advantage on Diego, and then I'm going to keep staring him in the eyes as everything that he does fails as I get closer and closer to him, and then I'm going to kill him. Now it's good for the mess. Sorry about the horrible. Okay. So it is important to get this initial advantage. If I do not have something like the fine or a reason to think that I am safe for the first moment of contact with my opponent, I cannot do this. So what's going to happen is we're first going to play with this in the case where my opponent is in long point and is extending their sword to me, and I can get a fine on them. Okay? So I can take this fine either on the inside or the outside. Coaches, please give an opening to the inside. And give an opening between the weapons so that I could actually attack. So what's going to happen is I'm going to come in and I am going to get a find on my opponent's sword. Then they are going to take a step back, and I'm going to follow, and I'm going to maintain this advantage. Then they are going to push on my sword, and I'm going to disengage, and then I'm going to kill them. Okay? So the idea is we could do this drill in a large number of ways, but we haven't established the processing capacity to do a large variety of different actions. I've only taught you a few today, and we have to rely on those. So we're going to do that particular thing that I just showed you. But before I show you that one more time and then we break off, I'm going to show you what it could look like, but we have to do this very slowly. I don't have to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with an initial find on Diego. Then I'm going to take a step forward, and he's going to parry. Then I'm going to thrust at his leg, and he's going to take a step back and parry. Then I'm going to cut at his head, and he's going to take a step back and parry. Then I'm going to cut at his leg, and he's going to take a step back and parry. Then he's a little too close, so I'm just going to hit him in the head. And what I'm going to do at each moment is I'm going to try to find a new opportunity to make an attack. Ideally, I would like to actually maintain control of his sword when I'm doing this. So the best version of this is I get an initial find on the sword, he pushes me as I come in, I get a new find on the sword by disengagement, then he tries to push me again, and I maintain it, then he tries to push me again, and I maintain it. Now I'm too close, and I can just hit him, right? So there's a million different versions of this. All of what it comes down to, though, is that I maintain my initial advantage in some way. And I keep threatening Diego, as I do not allow him to escape freely from each action. I take a step in, as I do everything. He takes a step back, but a lot of the time he's not going to step back quite enough. Taking steps forward is better. It's easier, it makes more sense to the mind. And it also is, you can take a step forward that's longer. But what you don't want to do is hurry. So if I instead try to do a version of proceeding where I just keep pushing him back and I'm like rushing, he's just going to hit me in the leg or something. No, I need to keep controlling him. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to find this here, and I'm going to keep the sword, and I'm just going to maintain this control. I'm going to wait for him to do something until he is too close to me, and I can just hit him. Or if he has made a mistake that's big enough that I can just hit him. So this is actually very hard. It's very advanced. That's why we're doing a very limited version of it. But then the next thing that I'm going to show you after this fine version is I'm going to show you a version of this that is the reason why holding the extended guard the way that we do is better than holding back like this. Right, or down. Okay, so again, the drill we're going to start off with is Diego is going to open between his weapons and allow me to take a climb. As I take my climb, he's going to take a step back, and I'm going to maintain my advantage. Then he's going to push on my sword, and I'm going to disengage, and then I'm going to hit. Does that make sense? So this is a very easy example of this idea. But the idea is I'm going to keep making my steps forward. I'm going to do them in sequence and in reaction to each one of his movements. Sound good? All right, pair up and try that.
It's already boiling.
Slow it down so you get every action perfect. So not blur.
Sorry, I couldn't miss everything. Let's try again.
So that was pretty hard, right? It's actually not that easy to do this. The trick is you need to make sure that every action remains distinct. When you are actually fighting in a real bout, it is difficult to make actions remain crisp and intentional. That is why we train. And this is one of the harder things that you can do, which is continue to press your advantage and convert each new action by your opponent into maintenance of your advantage, right? That's very hard, but that's why we train. Okay. So what I want you to add now, what we're going to add now is one more action, not that hard, not that hard. All of it's going to remain the same up until that point. My coach is going to open between the weapons. I'm going to take my time. He's going to take a step back. I'm going to follow him. He's going to push on my sword. I'm going to attack. Now he's going to parry this. Good. And he's going to take a step back. Then I'm going to hit his leg. And then I'm going to come back up. So one more parry, and then a new action. I want to do this in the time that he does his parry. So one more time with the correct timing. So I take my initial climb, takes a step back, I follow, he pushes, I come forward, he parries, and then I hit. Sound good? Sound good? Okay. I'll keep your shield up in order to defend against him also.
Look up at me.
Okay.
As soon as I'm coming at you, not after I've stopped, but as you feel me going, you immediately come off.
Sorry, I promise, slow it down a little bit.
Maybe close enough to make sure I really am doing it this time. You know.
Okay, yeah, this is, you want out?
So he's gonna stab you, but it's when you go to carry me, carry with the sword, that's when I'm gonna come over.
Pushing you.
Don't do the cut till you see me really seriously here. Because otherwise, as soon as you were to drop your sword, I'm come here, come around, but then I don't do this and I see you going down. You gotta read.
Alright, pause. Alright, we're gonna switch to something intellectually easier in just a second. But first, we're gonna add one more. When we're adding this one more, that means that we're now like 5 actions deep. So you need to really go slow and do not speed this up. Do not try to blur the actions together or try to make yourself feel like you're completing a puzzle by like mastering the earlier components. I want you to keep every action crisp instead. Okay, that's better for all of us. Okay, so the last action that we're going to add here is that I am going to gain my initial find on Diego with the opening between. He's going to take a step back, I'm going to follow, he's going to push, and I'm going to disengage. And I'm going to try to hit his leg, and then he's going to slip his leg. So if you guys haven't seen this before, what you do is you just bring the legs back together, and then you're ready to do a follow-up action. So the reason that this is a good place to end is because this is Diego saying, I can no longer move anymore because I am choosing to give up my ability to move backwards by putting my feet together. Now you can't step backwards. You can't produce energy that'll bring you backwards. And so now we have to find another way to hit him. So I wouldn't really care which one you do, but I'm going to try to add one that you guys haven't done before. So let's start at the beginning, and I get my find, he takes a step back, I follow, I follow. Then he pushes on my sword, then I disengage and come forward. He parries, and I cut him in the leg, and I'm just going to hit him in the middle. Sound good? So, yeah. Sorry, was that question?
Yeah, you just like cover it.
Yes, you definitely have to cover. So basically what's happening is I'm choosing to cut his leg and then I have to cover it, but he's still open, so I can, right? So I have to redirect and I have to come forward just a little bit more in order to get this last strike, and he's got a last counter for me, but then that last counter uses up his ability to move backwards, and that's where we can stop our drill. Sound good? Okay, and again, be very slow. This is actually hard. And a failure means more interaction, so you're confused. Confusion is failure.
An attack, and I'll do
Are you attacking me this time?
Be a little more distinct between your advances, so that I have a chance to advance, because you're just kind of continuing in, and I think that's
Yeah, I love that. I know, yeah, it's like, it really makes me want to do that. So I guess you're kind of putting out your shield for it.
We stay down. Oh, by the way, you know why, you stay on all the.
Right. Well, right, but, I mean, this is good because it's
And you know why you're covered.
I guess I'll really try to get everything in a lot of bucks, unless you slip in.
All right, good. Come back in.
Yeah, you see.
So that's the hardest thing that we're going to do by quite a substantial margin. So I guess what I want to express very clearly about this is that that is what we are trying to do. That is, in 10 years, I might be able to do that return. You know, I think this is so hard. But the thing is, those decision-making moments, these things where you're deciding at each moment very clearly in your own mind, what is it that will stop what my opponent is currently doing so that I can maintain my advantage? The clearer we get on all of those decision points and the more we understand why we're making those decisions, the better we get at fencing, right? And so maybe we only get 2 actions into this before our opponent has a catastrophic failure and dies. Maybe we drop our shield when we're trying to go for this last cut and then we get destroyed in the head. Or maybe we're trained and we still have it up and we're trying to get to that point where we're haven't dropped any elements of our style, of our choices, of our intentional movements in the sword fight, and we're continuing to make good decisions all the way through that maintain our fundamentals all the way through. And you know, in this, it wasn't really that complicated. All of each individual action that we were doing. What's complicated is doing them in order. So anyway, as we get better, we may eventually be able to do this. It's hard. Doing it at speed would be much harder. I think. Okay. So this is the first example of proceeding. And now we're going to stop doing long action sequences like this, but I still want you to keep in mind that the context of this, these next things is proceedings, that we're going to continue to push our opponent until they have to make a mistake, and then we hit them. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you why having your sword and buckler out in front of you is superior to holding it away. Now this isn't really true. Those things are great if you're good, and then you can use them. But they offer a big vulnerability that can be exploited by anyone, and what you gain back is the ability to be clever. And being clever means that you have to be far away from your opponent and to be coming into the engagement. Okay, so and that's what we're going to exploit here by proceeding here. Okay, so actually let's talk about that concept that I was just saying for a second. So when we're at all of these retracted guards, and I'm fencing against Diego, who is holding this point out. What I am hoping to do is, as I come into contact with him, to be gaining some kind of beneficial arrangement of my sword with his. I probably can't just hit him because he has a buckler. If he did not have a buckler and he was using a long sword, I might be able to just hit him if I'm up here, and then I go, you know, I don't know, if I judge it right, I might be able to just hit him. I shouldn't be able to just hit him if he has this stuff out, right? So. Right, I'm not going to hit it, right? So instead, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gain a beneficial arrangement with my sword on his. So, for example, if I'm up here, one thing I might be trying to do is try and beat his sword out of the way, right? And I have a very powerful version of that because I'm coming from my shoulder. That is a way that we could have done that drill earlier, where we would have been able to have a very powerful movement. It's a little harder for us to think about it because we have to do it in an exact period of time. We have to do it as we come to here. If I get too close, and then I try to do this, he'll just kill me. We agree that there's a particular distance where I have to have my sword in front of me. Now, that's not as true when you have the buckler, but it's still kind of true. Okay, so next, we could consider some other examples, right? So we could consider an example where I'm trying to be clever like this, right? And I hit his leg while I maintain my presence with my buckler. That's pretty clever. I have to be doing that at exactly the right distance, and I have to make sure that my buckler's in the way. That's an advanced technique, I would argue. A little more advanced than we like to do today.
Another example is that I can be over my shoulder, and then as I come in, I arc, and I hit him behind his shield. That's an advanced technique. That's pretty tricky. All of these are hard. We don't want to be the person who's trying to do something hard. We want to mostly, and as we start training this system, we want to be the person who's doing something very easy that just, always protects us when we know what we're going to do, right? Okay, so now, Diego's going to take one of these positions where his sword is outside of the fray and his buckler is in a good position up and protecting himself. He's not vulnerable up here, but I want to attack him, and I know that he's going to try to do something clever. But the problem is that I am holding the center. So holding the center means he cannot do anything to me until he figures out how to get around my sword. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a step at him, and I'm going to present my sword so that if he takes the most obvious angle of coming back to the center, I will collect his sword on mine. See, I collected him on my sword, wasn't hitting the finger, great, lovely. Now, let's take a couple other examples. So what if he is up on his right hand shoulder? I do the same thing, and he cuts it. I know that I'm going to collect it here in the middle. What if he is down below? Okay, so that is what I am expecting him to do. And the reason that I'm expecting him to do it is because he has a self-preservation instinct, and I'm continuing to press the measure on him. So let's we're not going to actually do this in the drill, we're not going to do the procedure part. But go into one of these guards, and I want you to take a couple steps back and then stop. So at a certain point, he'll start to ring out, right? And then he'll have to throw this, and then go back. And then it'll get caught by my guard. Or if I get too close, I'll just hit. Right? So that's what I call it. And I can hit him anywhere. I can hit him in the head. I can hit him in the leg. Anywhere. I don't care. There's a moment at which I can become too close, and I can hit him before he can respond. Right? Before he can actually hit me. Okay. One other comment about this is that we're only going to practice against the most obvious attack. Why? He could do something else, right? He could do something crazy. He could flick his sword around like this. Why are we only practicing against the fastest, the most obvious attack? Yeah, it's definitely the most common. Definitely. It's the fastest, right? If he tries something else, we can adjust because we're already covering the first thing, the thing that's fastest. And therefore, if he tries something else that's slower, it's wrong. It's slow. But maybe it's the only thing he can do. But and then the last thing that I want to mention about this is the reason that we get to have all of these tactical opportunities is that we're continuing to press the measure on him. If we don't do this with proceeding, then we, if I just hold this and then I just stay here, well, he can come back to the center whenever he wants. I'm not actually forcing him to come to the center. What I'm actually doing is I'm pressing his measure once, and now he's in trouble. Right? That's what we're doing. But we're not. Let's not do it exactly. Okay. So. The coach is going to go into one of the withdrawn guard positions. The coach is going to hold their shield in front of them like this, very nicely, and then they're going to be ready to throw a cut from there. The student is going to choose a position that I'm not going to exhaustively explain in order to collect that sword as it makes its most obvious cut on the sword and or shield, gathering them both together, right? And then when they do that, the coach should throw this attack right now, and then we're going to add another version where they don't. Okay, right up. Oh, yeah. Rotate. Yeah, so that's everyone else is okay. So you want to So how would you stop it?
See what I'm saying?
I don't think you really need to move forward. You're not pressing me. You're just giving me the blade.
But not that. Really, find the head. Right now we're doing
Okay, yeah, I was curious about Okay. Yeah, I think that felt better. Okay, your turn.
I had to think about it for a second.
Right.
That is the best way. I found doing my fish and if I tried to step if I wasn't already scared. So I think it's because
Right. Here, I'm gonna put this right That's nice.
Probably gonna get over it.
Yeah, it feels good.
Catch it.
Quick pause. So now, I want you to add one more thing. In I-33, the way that the system works is that you hold your sword forward, and then you use your buckler in order to cover against their sword explicitly so that your hand is not hit. So a lot of you guys were just correctly understanding that you have a side sword in your hand and it's a good sword. And what you were doing is you were allowing it to get collected on your complex card, even if it's not that complex, right? So now, I want you to go back to the ancient times of 1320, and I want you to put your buckler in the shadow of where they must go, and actually intercept the buckler. Yeah? All right, try it out. And if you're already doing that for some of these, that's great. Oh, yeah. Not so.
you should have done
We'll finish that up. We'll do a few more.
Same thing, you're relying more on a little less obvious because the army. Same thing.
Make sure you get the lower guards too. The lower guards are especially interesting with this. Yeah?
That makes sense. Yeah, like that. I have to come low, I guess. Yeah. Good. I was trying this. Yeah, why were you coming from down there? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're. Yeah, it's already fine. Yeah, that's actually really good. True. Very true.
All right, hold! Come back in. Okay, so we just unlocked all of I-33 in one simple motion. Because basically what I-33 is, it completely agrees with everything that I've said today, but what it does is it privileges the buckler by having it have a certain position. And the reason for this is that when you have an arming sword that is just a simple bar, you cannot protect your hand from the fact that the sword like slides around the inside of it, right? And so you always have to have something in the way of that because your hand powers the engine of war. I think we agree. Okay, so now we're going to add one more thing that turns this into proceeding events. We're going to have to slow it down a little bit, but it's still much simpler than what we're doing. So the coach is going to take one of these extended guards. Sorry, retracted guards. Then the student is going to approach them in the manner that we just described. Then the coach is going to stop, moving backwards. The student is going to approach. The coach is going to move backwards in order to maintain the position where they could potentially come back to the center of the profitably, right? Then the coach is going to stop. They're not going to come back to the center yet. And then they're just going to cut on the same line that they were just doing, right? As soon as they feel that the student is in range for that cut. So basically what we're going to add is the idea of measure. We're going to add the fact that measure is collapsing, but it's being controlled by an opponent who wants to save their own hide, right? So they understand that if we get too close, it's going to be a problem, but they can't retreat forever. So we're just going to add this little wrinkle to the does that make sense? So coach again is going to choose one of these, and then they're going to continue to step back until they stop, and then when the student gets close enough, they'll try to hit them, and the student should be ready. Sound good? Just a little wrinkle, similar. Switch card please.
Nice.
Coach me and roll back up until I no longer want to back up. And I guess you have to back up. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I guess you got to get back. receive that.
So we would.
One turn. Start with drag. Oh. Okay, so instead of.
Your coach? Yeah, you are. Now, he's going to approach in the guard that should deflect. Right. Okay, so you're ready to receive this blow. Okay, now you approach. Back. Now stop. Now,
Let's do one more. So I'll be over here. So you're gonna want to cover it like kind of at that angle.
so the idea is basically you would focus. I know that I'm in the right with this blow. And then eventually I have to stop. And then back here.
Yeah, that's good.
So we're already a little bit past time, but I actually want to add, I was going to stop with this last thing, but I actually want to add one more. We're going to add one more because it'll make the whole thing bigger. Okay, so as the coach is retreating, there's a moment at which they must throw their strike or be hit, right? And that moment is when they can no longer retreat. When we are in a tournament, there is a definition on how far you can retreat. If you are in a battle and you are standing with your brothers and sisters in line and you are resisting the enemy's charge, how far can you retreat? No retreat. And that's why you hold your sword in front of you so that you don't have to cut at the wrong time, right? Anyway, so the coach can continue to cede ground as you proceed towards them and maintain this ability to throw this potentially profitable cut. If you are holding counter posture, which is the thing that we were doing by putting our sword in the way as we proceed forward, then they cannot throw that cut and they instead have to do something else, right? Anyway, we're just going to add one more wrinkle, which is the idea that the coach now, when they stop, they will choose either to throw this cut or to do nothing and stay in that retracted guard. If the student makes one more step forward and gets just a little closer so that they can make that last strike unimpeded, faster than that blow can come in, then they will do that. I'll demonstrate this with Diego very quickly. So Diego's going to be my coach. He's going to be in this retracted guard. He's going to step backwards. Okay, then he's going to stop stepping backwards, and then I'm going to try to make one more step forward, during which he will either cut, do that once, and then I'll hit him, right? Or he'll do nothing, and then I'll just hit him, right? So there's this, it's the moment of the student's last step. So this coach stops, and then the student tries to step forward, and then the coach has already decided whether they will cut or they will not. And if they do cut, then you gather, and if they do not cut, then you just go. And then for the example where he does not cut, let's just do that whole thing because you were just doing the other thing. So Diego's going to step back, and back, and back, and then he stops, and then I hit him. Right? And he had only that one moment in order to do something else, and he chose not to do it, and I have to be ready to do that on a hair trigger, right? Okay, try it out. And that's the last thing.
All right. I'll be the coach. So same thing. I'll either attack you or I won't. And if I don't do anything on that last step, you attack me.
Stop.
collapsing the rest in just a second. Because of practice. Wait for your one, and then go. And then if you were really doing this as like that pause is very short. Wait, make that one further small step forward before you actually. Yeah.
No, let's do it again, but I'll attack this time. Yep, just anticipate it. Good. Yes. That's it. It's alright. I'm gonna give you 2 more, and I'm not gonna tell you which one to use. Nice. You wanna switch? Okay, alright. Yeah. May have lost the leg. You're good. No rush.
No, so that actually is what he would actually do. And that's, so Tom, if he was a very slow fencer, what he would do is, I know she's going to throw it. It's on also, he can just put his, that's the only way he wants to use his sword. Like, if he was hiding to go for it, he can just.
Did you do the feedback? I thought we
Yeah.
Now it's still in position. It's right up there. But I still should cover myself first.
Good, come in. Nice job, guys. So, I think that last section on proceeding was pretty difficult. I know it was within your capability. I saw that many times. But you know, that's actually a really difficult thing to do. You know, to maintain that positive pressure at your opponent and continue to take away space and opportunities while maintaining your cool and understanding actually what options they have to make an action, right? So in this case, we just talked about the fastest action. I'll just remind you that if they do something clever, you just need to respond to that, right? If they, for example, try to do like a, you know, if you're down here and they do like an arcing action, you just need to, just need to move in order to be able to do that. And the reason that that's feasible is that second thing is always going to be slow. There's only the fastest thing that's available that can get you before you can react, and then anything else you could react to, right? Okay, so I want to add a little bit about proceeding as we finish this up, because I think that it's a novel concept to a lot of people, because it's only in like one book, really. Like it's only in Fabrice, really. And so like if you learned a German system before, it's not in there. But there is a thing that's in there. It's called taking the board. So this is a version of taking the board. And it's a version of taking the board that is predicated on a very simple principle, which is that I started off with an advantage, and that I continued to keep my opponent in obedience to me, right? So I started off with the advantage of the find, perhaps. And then I was able to, as they continued to try to increase their position, continue to proffer threats on new lines, so that each time that they had to react or that they were hit. And that's the exact same idea as the board. The thing that's additional to this is that you continue to collapse measure explicitly at the same time, and that's like part of the plan, right? And it's part of the plan explicitly. In the German system with the Vor, it wouldn't be explicitly part of it, but it would be what you'd actually have to do if you like started training this, right? So it's all one art. Swords are swords. There's only one thing, everything that you learn here can be used in longsword in different ways. Everything that you learn here can easily be used in rapier and dagger. And most of it could be used in rapier level, right? So when I started to get better at HEMA, there was a point where I thought that I was hot shit, and then the pandemic hit, and then I had to rebuild my confidence from nothing. And I thought that I wanted to become better at this, and so I wanted to find all of these perfect moments where I had like only the best opportunity to hit. And the way that I got over that is that I started telling myself when I was in a battle, hunt, hunt, hunt. It's time to go forward. I'm the threat. I know how to deal with what people are throwing at me, and I can hit them. And I think that that's what you should do if you try to employ this proceeding system, something like that. Remind yourself that you're the person who's giving the pressure, and that they are receiving the pressure poorly, and then they're hit, right? So just a little tip. So overall, in Sword and Buckler, I think that it's good to go like this. I hope you now see one of the reasons why it's really bad not to go like this. And if you do want to continue to use these cuts that are in I-33 from behind the shield, you should remember that what the actual text of I-33 does is it gives a very large number of examples of how to brutally counter that. And the conclusion that you might want to take from it is that it's not always good to be there, and then you should be very careful about coming out of those guards while you still have time and distance to do so. Sound good? All right, thank you for